Customer Commerce Podcast, where technology's fast and biz is a blast.
In life and in business, time is precious. It's why customers stay or leave and why businesses succeed or fail. We're here to give a voice to everything that makes business, whether as a customer or as a CEO, easier and more rewarding. Welcome to the Customer Commerce Podcast. Let's dive in. Welcome to episode 4 of the Customer Commerce Podcast. I'm Jess, your host, and joined with me is Michael Linzer, a man of the future. He thinks, breathes, and operates for the future, a better future, which is why the company that he has built from scratch, StoreConnect, has grown significantly in the past 4 years, helping many businesses do business, specifically e-commerce, smarter by creating a win-win approach for both the hardworking business owners and their customers. David Breyer, branding extraordinaire, and his giant, passionate mind is also here with us. He is so good with branding, he could possibly sell sand to the Sahara Desert. Hello, gentlemen.
G'day.
Yo.
You know, this is going to be harder for me to keep adding crazy intros.
We're gonna have to get different guests on, Jess. That's the solution.
Oh, no.
We'll start
Don't
cycling
worry.
through more Jess.
No, I can keep it. I can keep them coming. As creative as I can get.
Okay, good.
How are you both?
Good.
Good. Very good.
Good. Are we excited for this episode?
Oh,
We of course. I mean,
any more excited and I burst into flames.
could there be a better reason than to get out of bed on a winter's morning in Sydney?
I know. Well, for you, certainly. I'm in Florida, so I'm just we're sweaty and humid here.
Nice and warm. Yep. No.
Yes. But speaking of Australia, I want to kind of go into a little trend, or not, maybe not a trend, actually just a new thing that I observed. The thing that I saw was an Instagram story. A friend of mine posted a reel or a story of her husband holding the trolley and had a little coffee cup sitting nice and tight in the little, the handle of the shopping trolley. And he looked like he was having the time of his life. And then I started Googling it, and I saw that Woolworths had, like imported or just added on these beautiful shopping trolley coffee cup holders, as well as these iPhone holders as well, or smartphone holders.
Nice.
So you can look at your shopping list on your phone, have your coffee there, hold your toddler in one hand or your dog in the other, or whatever, your house in one hand, and be shopping away. And
Did they also have like a strap-on masseuse to like massage your shoulders as you was walking? Because that would really complete the whole package.
Yeah, it's probably in the production line, I'm sure.
Or just have someone following you around doing the massage as you did your
I
morning
want
shot.
that.
Yeah, totally.
It's not creepy at all.
No, not at all. You're looking at whether or not the avocados are ripe, and at the same time someone's diving into you with their thumbs. That would be amazing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's called listening to your customers, isn't it? I mean, I was at Hammer Barn. For all the Americans out there, you'll probably know what a Hammer Barn is now. If you have a kid, that watches Bluey, and if you haven't watched Bluey and you don't know what Hammer Barn is, then you need to do both of those two things because, well, mainly just watch Bluey. It's amazing.
I actually need to.
Yeah, Bluey's just next level. It's fantastic. It's got so many parent jokes in it that it's just... as a parent, you watch it and you laugh about as much as the kids laugh, if not more, because there's the kids' jokes are funny and then it's all situational comedy, but then the parents' jokes overlaid on top of that are just hilarious.
I love scripts where the writers take the time to have the inside jokes that the adults get while entertaining the kids. I think
Totally.
That's an art form that I admire to the ends of the earth.
Yeah, very,
I
very
feel like
clever.
The Simpsons did that a little bit. Now that when I've watched an episode now, I'm like, I had no idea that was happening. There's like a whole other separate dialogue.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Bluey
Anyway,
seems
I was at
more
Hammer Barn
innocent.
and I had my daughter and she was racing around the joint and I had my coffee and I couldn't put my coffee anywhere. And so I'm carrying this coffee and looking like the true dork that I am, strolling around the hardware store, holding a coffee cup, trying to figure out where to put the coffee cup when I was picking up the thing that was quite big, and I had to use both hands. So coffee cup goes on the floor, and that's smart. I don't know what to say. That's really smart. I did not expect
weird,
that
though.
from Coles, to be honest.
It's funny though that where you think like you're like, oh, this is a difficulty of mine, but you don't think like, oh, wouldn't it be smart if trolleys had it,
Had a cup holder.
Yeah.
You
think everything's already been thought of.
Yeah, that's right. And a lot of people go through this. It's the assumed knowledge, and the hardest thing to spot is something that should be there that isn't. So like if you're, I guess business holders can look at this in terms of how they run their customer experience as well. It's like you sort of assume that you have a post-sales survey, but you don't. Or you assume that your staff ask if there's anything else that they need, but they don't. These assumptions of things happening. But even beyond that, like this, cup holder. Like it's not something that you would think of. Cars have cup holders, but there was a time where cars did not have cup holders. Now every car has a cup holder, and probably a year away or 2 years away, once they go through their trolley fleet worldwide, every trolley is probably just now going to have a cup holder. Maybe it's actually really funny. Maybe we're really behind the times, and some country is listening to us right now. Someone from some country, they're going, "You don't have cup holders in your trolleys? What sort of Neanderthals are you?"
Yeah. And then there's another country listening to that going, "You don't have a masseuse? What do you mean?"
And then the third one going, "Trolleys?" And every country have their own, thing. It really is interesting.
Mm.
That's the stuff that I enjoy the most. Is I always love looking for what isn't happening or what's missing that is just sort of hiding, what I call hiding in plain sight. There's a particular place in America, and their customer service is so exceptional. They actually establish certain policies, because customer service overall has just gone way downhill. And so they have a thing. If a customer is within 10 feet of you, you look them in the eye and you smile, give them a nod. If they're within 5 feet of you, you actually you do the same and say hello. This is like part of their policy. And the fact that you would have to even put that in writing almost seems absurd, but you do at this point. But this stuff like that is just going, what would I want if I were in that position? How would I like to be treated? And so I love that kind of stuff. That's great.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It would also drive the number of minutes spent in store upwards for that supermarket. Because
1,000%.
Because on the way in now you would unconsciously be thinking, oh, there's a cup holder. I can get my extra hot large latte and I can stroll the store without having to worry about it, instead of, well, first let's sit down and have a coffee and then we'll go shopping, right? So it's pretty clever, because now they've got hungry or thirsty people shopping as opposed to people that have just had their coffee at a cafe and are now shopping. So smart.
Yeah. Or you could
and it also costs after you do the initial investment, it costs nothing. It's like it's something that's self-replenishing. And I love the self-replenishing things. There's a particular fast food gourmet kind of place in the States. And one of the things that I loved, it was brilliant, because their stuff does have a fragrance to it, the food, and they have neon sign in every one of their shops. And what it said was free smells. And it was like, you go, oh, okay. It's just little low-hanging fruit. But those opportunities are just priceless. They're endlessly, the ROI on them is endless.
That's so true. Again, it's like, don't assume that you think you know what people want. Like, it's a lot of people, including myself, are very easily pleased by the tiniest things. It's like, and it can be free. You just put a sign out there and it's like, boom. Yeah, I want free smells. How's it?
That's right.
I will drive to get free smells. There was a coffee roaster that was around the corner from my house previously. And yes, for those following along, it's week 2 without my coffee machine. I know first world problems, but oh my God. And Yeah, this coffee roaster, they had a massive industrial fan over the top of their coffee machine with a ductwork because the coffee shop just smelt like coffee all the time, and the fan just piped it out onto the street.
Genius.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This episode is going to be focused around how to find what your customers actually want from you. Hence,
Right.
bringing up that topic of what do your customers want? You know, have you surveyed? Have you actually asked? The little things count, and you don't even realize the little things until you survey. And Michael, I know you're a big fan of surveys.
Yes.
Hence why I've kind of copied and pasted from our StoreConnect survey, which actually got featured recently in CBS News.
Mhm.
And there's a little radio clip that you'll find on our socials on LinkedIn. But I wanted to take 7 of the ones that I thought were most interesting, and I think we can talk about it. But I think because you guys have a lot to say, because we can talk about these things forever, I want to kind of break them down into 2. And I think we do a couple now, and then we're going to do another episode, and we're going to break down a couple more there. And then you guys are going to hear a real customer story, which if you haven't been listening to these episodes, you've been living under a rock. But our real customer stories are based on real life e-commerce. What's the opposite of e-commerce? All
No
commerce?
Failed commerce.
All commerce experiences that have been nightmares, and we've all had one, and we have a link that you can go to if you've experienced something recently and you just need to let it all out. You can rant away, cuss away, hence Real CUSStomers. But we have this platform to give a voice to those customers that just need to get it out and feel understood, but also so that we can help business owners realize what is actually frustrating their consumers and their customers. And then we can talk about it. And Michael and David have incredible input and tips that then you can take away as a business owner and implement into your business so that you can prevent these experiences from happening. So you're going to hear that in the next episode, episode 5. So we're going to break this into 2 parts. So let's get straight into it. This survey was done with 2,000 people. That's a lot. It's a good amount of people. To be specific, 57% were female and 43% were male. So the first question I want to bring up with you guys is, what is the first category you cut back on when limited on funds? And I took the top 4 answers. So number 1 was entertainment and recreational, clothing and beauty, number 2. Number 3 was debt, and number 4 was travel. So in that order. And I just want to have a little open up to the panel on what you think about that, like entertainment and recreational being the first thing that people cut back on when they were limited on funds.
Yeah, I mean, that would be quite a natural response. I think that's a good survey question to make sure you've got the right sort of people answering your questions, because I would expect everyone to say that, you know, the last thing you're going to splurge on if funds are tight are dinner and movies out. You know, that's just not going to happen, and you won't be booking a vacation if you have no money to book that vacation because you want to work more or you want to do some more jobs to get that income in. So I think that makes a lot of sense. It also causes a challenge for anyone who sells those things in a down market. You know, how do you actually penetrate through that? And that would be an interesting marketing and branding exercise. And I guess, you know, a lot of those, I mean, travel came in at 4. I think travel in that case is probably more along the lines of, well, do I catch an Uber or do I take the train? Maybe more that than traveling to go to a holiday, which is recreational, right? So, although I guess you could also take a train on a holiday and instead of flying to Bali or some other country and enjoying yourself. So anyway, yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense.
I'm kind of surprised that extravagantly flamboyant and useless clothing accessories didn't come up in the top 4. But, you know, with that being said,
I mean, you're incredibly sharply dressed there, David, in your t-shirt.
Thank you so much. Thank you so. Well,
coordinated.
from my navel down, I'm wearing it. From my navel down, I'm wearing a tuxedo, so it doesn't. I mean, it's just.
Okay,
I just
good.
want.
Yeah. I'm not going to ask you to prove it for the benefit of our audience. No,
I appreciate that. I do appreciate that very much.
And
yeah,
then
debt's a really funny one because people won't pay it because it's not in their face. Delaying it, and then you've got another month, and now you're behind. But you can sort of argue, and you can sort of keep it rolling a month behind, and maybe you can whack some more on another credit card to actually buy that pair of shoes or that new jacket that you need, or those fantastic sunglasses that were amazing, and you're racking up debt in expense to that, having that thing right now. So yeah, it really does make it interesting when you're selling into a market like that, or you're selling into a down market, and you are one of those four things. You could also use that in the way to communicate the sales pitch. I don't know if you'd want to do this, but who cares about debt? You need shoes. That would be an interesting tagline. Probably not very ethical, but this sort of a viewpoint, you would need to start coming up with, what is it about my product that my target market think is more important than everything else they could spend on, and focus in on that, because that's what the survey says. So fine, you need to work out how to continue to grow and expand during downturns as well. So that's a really interesting marketing challenge, and it would behoove anyone who's selling those four things and the rest to have a look at what the differences are and where you're going to actually market into and how you're going to do that.
What do you think of e-commerce businesses that offer Afterpay or those kind of, payment plans?
Afterpay and those solutions can be very valuable if you have larger ticket items. I think one of the challenges with solutions like Afterpay is less about the solution itself and more about the financial literacy we're teaching general kids and people as they're growing up. I had a friend of mine, and I'm sure if you asked Afterpay, they're going, well, that's not what Afterpay is designed for. But I knew someone who had put, 10 different things on Afterpay over a period of a year, and we're talking $80 items or $50 items. And while it can work with Afterpay, it's you don't want to be living on that, for $50 or $60 or something like that. That's if you have to, because you can't afford it, split a product into 4 payments, and it's a $50 item, and you're continuing to live that way, that would indicate that you need to handle and put more attention on the income side of your life more than the expenditure side of your life, right? And, it's very easy for me to say that, being in my position. I appreciate that not everyone's the same, but the truth of the matter is there's always a way to increase your income if you take a look at it and figure it out. So I don't want this to get into a rant on that line, but there's PayPal's Pay in 4, there's Afterpay, there's ZipPay. There's another one that I think just recently went under. But there's a lot of these companies out there that offer that solution, and there's nothing inherently wrong with them. It's like the difference between purchasing something and purchasing on credit card. Do you pay your credit card off in full every month? If you don't, well, it's time to look at the income side of your business or reduce some of the unnecessary expenditures. But yeah, that would be more of a personal finance podcast, and this is the customer commerce podcast. But I guess from a business owner point of view, number one thing you need to do is make it simple for your clients to purchase from you. You don't want to waste their time, and you want to make it easy. So you need to optimize for that. And your job is not to evaluate and decide on the financial stability of your clients. Your job is to make sure that your clients get the product that they need now, without wasted time, without wasted effort, without farting around. You know, there's lots of reasons why you might need Afterpay before the reason of I don't have enough money to pay for a $50 purchase comes up. There could be all sorts of things. Like, I mean, I had a situation last week. I was traveling. While I was traveling, I'd left 2 weeks before my credit card expiry date. I was traveling, credit card expired, the new one's in the post. There's nowhere to get it. I now don't have that credit card while I'm traveling. So what do you do? You know, so that was my main online e-commerce credit card solution. So I had to go and set up a PayPal account and then transfer some money and, you know, all these sorts of things that happen. So you don't necessarily know why someone needs Afterpay or Zip Pay or Pay in 4 or what have you. I'm sure Stripe or Square will come out with something soon if they haven't already. But you need to make sure that whatever payment solution the client wants, you have it available so that you're not the blocker and the barrier to their being able to produce what they want to produce, purchase what they want to purchase.
Makes sense. Okay, cool. The next question was, what category do you prioritize first when limited on funds? And the top 3 answers were rent/housing/utilities, groceries/food. And then third one was entertainment, recreational. The reason why I found this fascinating was because I guess when people are running their own business and they're trying to figure out what do people need? What do people want? Or they're wanting to go into business, go into e-commerce, and they're figuring out what actually, like, what's a necessity for people. I mean, this survey is incredible because you can just look at it and go, great, utilities or housing or something to do with that. Sweet, let's survey that. You know what I mean? Or go down one step in there, grocery, food. Like, I know that the markets are saturated with different things, but it's still like it still makes a difference. You know what I mean? Because you're looking at a particular area.
Yep, the key to growth of surveys. You know, this probably some people listening to this going, well, duh. I mean, of course it's housing and food and then entertainment in that order. You know, that why would it ever be anything ever else? But again, you're assuming that that's correct. If you haven't done the survey to your client target market, you're assuming that that's correct. And every company out there could do with asking their customers what they think and throwing some questions in that you know are correct to find out that you're not correct or to confirm that you are, in which case, okay, now, great. Right now, our customer base does blah. In a year, that might change, so you might need to survey it again. But having these survey responses can drive all sorts of things. They can drive how you position your advertising. They can drive how you arrange items in your shop, both online and offline. You know, if you sell a range of products and it's a downturn in the market, and say you're a food store and you've been surveying your clients and your food store is you've got an online packaged food store and you're surveying and you find out an answer that, you know, what are people most worried about? And the number one thing that comes up might be, I don't know, say international war. So, okay, that's now the number one thing that your clients are worried about and is top of mind when they come to your store. Well, what do you put at the top of the page then? You put survival food, pre-packaged, long-lasting, special on survival food. And you make it easy for them to purchase. And you might talk about how it's the best tasting survival food in the world, or you might talk about how this product is amazing for tonight's dinner, but if you leave it in your cupboard, it will be fine in 4 months as well. You know, it's like incredible shelf life products or whatever. And you start coming up with these alternative ways to communicate that same product to those clients with those survey responses. You know, like on entertainment, you know that it's one of the top things that they're going to cut when money's short. So then maybe part of the advertising campaign becomes things like let your hair down and splurge a little, you deserve it. Right?
And you can also cross sell, where you can actually like, this is the best survival food to enjoy during a movie.
Right. That's right. And be a movie survivor. Is a movie boring you? This is the movie. This is the food to get to help you survive through the entire movie. And this is people think about this sort of thing and go, well, they might think that's just silly or that's just stupid, but it's the silly and stupid things that people remember. If you remember that survey that was done earlier that we mentioned in a prior podcast about how a third of all customers will leave a brand they love after one bad experience. And on the flip side of that, they only remember the best and the worst moment of their shopping experience. It's not an average.
Well,
give them an insouciant moment of a bit like, huh?
That's why I love the unexpected stuff is so fun. I mean, that's why one of my favorite. It's always interesting to know what lasts in culture. Like, what's the stuff that kind of just seems to timelessly just stand through time? And there's like this one skit from Saturday Night Live during its heyday, where there was a skit with Christopher Walken as this, with Blue Oyster Cult, and it was then William Ferrell is doing this stupid thing with a cowbell, and Christopher Walken is a producer, and he goes, I got a fever, and the only cure is more cowbell. And if you say it anywhere in America, it's like, I need more cowbell. Everybody understands immediately, and it's so it's so stupid and nonsensical, but that's part of what makes it last.
This question is, when you treat yourself, how much do you typically spend? And this is in order. The first one was under $35. The second one was under $50. And the third one was under $100. There were other options, by the way. These are just the top three.
If they're treating themselves, they're going to pay $35 or less, basically, was the top response. Right.
Yeah.
And did you ask, do they actually, depending on how much they spend on themselves, do they then also give themselves a tip? So if they happen to spend more on themselves than if they spend less, because that would make a lot of sense to me.
I don't have that information.
David, you are bizarre sometimes.
Thank you, Michael.
What do you
think?
The interesting thing. See, I always admire Michael's little comments about my little flights of fancy, because I know that he's completely tracking with exactly where I went to. That's totally the part I find most fascinating.
Yeah. You can see it in his eyes. He was like, "Oh, here we go.
Here we go. David's on a roll." Watch out,
again, if we just focus, David. No.
David, focus.
Like, specifically, again, I'm picking these questions because I wonder, from an e-commerce business owner, why is that interesting to know?
Well, you want your impulse buys to be at that category and range. Have you also considered this item for under $35? And this is partly where solutions that fully integrate your platform make a lot of sense. And I'm determined that every episode I can say the words shameless plug StoreConnect. But having a solution where you're able to recommend additional products within price ranges or things like this is really critical. And that customer doing that checkout has got $150 in the cart because they sort of have to. I mean, well, let's stick with food. The person's doing their food shopping online. They're going through the whole process. This datum as a supermarket. Put in the cart. Have you considered this $28 box of indulgent chocolates for one? And communicate it that way. That this is a treat for you, the person that's doing all the hard work to make sure the rest of the family's fed. Here's something for you. Do you want to add it? And if you know that threshold, and for a supermarket, it might be less. The supermarket might need to do an exit survey of their customers and just say, hey, we have a question. At what's the limit on a price when you're shopping online, where you would just add something without really, worrying about it too much. they'd go $10 or $8 or $9 or whatever that is. And then you price that little tidbit of extra whatever goodness, yumminess, fun, insouciance at under that price so that it becomes an impulse buy. And that can work across all businesses. In our business, our product sells for, from $3,000 to $50,000 a year. So that value is going to be quite a bit different. But there are things that we can do that could impulse buy that client upwards to sell more. And every business can do that to whatever degree.
And at the same time, if you have that intel, you can also go, hey, if you want to do split payments, you can make the split so that the division works out so it's under the threshold. So like, oh, cool, I can buy more. So I mean, there's just ways to leverage it so that it just becomes it's interesting and it's eye opening. And at the same time, if that's kind of like a trigger, maybe at a certain point you structure things so that there's rewards for XYZ that then tap into that sort of those trigger thresholds. There's just ways to just use the information intelligently.
And David, like in terms of a marketing point of view, because I always wonder with businesses, is it good to promote that you have more affordable things, or do you want to seem like we don't want to promote that, we want to promote the value of it more than the price? Or what balance do you think businesses should have online, like when they're advertising the products?
Oh, I mean, I don't know that there's a pat answer, to be honest with you, because if there's a very, very high end sort of home furnishings and furniture and all kinds of place called Frontgate, very, very, very high end. I mean, I think it wouldn't surprise me if their average item is $2,000, right? So you already know going in that there's a certain threshold. So I mean, that's going to be different. Or if you go to someplace like Williams-Sonoma, which is a more premium foodie kind of destination, there's gonna be that. So I don't know that there's that. I mean, probably be most applicable if you take someplace like an Amazon, where they kind of bracket it. They go, well, if you're looking for things like under this threshold, ba-bum, 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 they really allow wherever you fall in the entire spectrum as an economic sensibility standpoint, you'll be able to find something to that effect.
But it doesn't really matter in terms of show a cheaper item, because, I mean, if you're going into the Bugatti dealership to buy a Bugatti at X million dollars, I'm sure they have would you like a extra set of chrome wheels with that or whatever, right? And even if those little extras cost $30,000 a piece, it's still significantly less than the car. Like we're talking 0.001% of the car cost or whatever it works out to be, right? It's a ridiculous difference. Or maybe you can get the gold-plated key fob instead of the standard silver-plated key fob, and that's an extra $400. Like, it doesn't matter. The point is that during that buyer experience, you have surveyed as to what is the value that they can afford and what is that impulse buy amount, and then offer the products at that level of the impulse buy amount. And then it will be different for every company. Like, as I said, the supermarket, it might be $5. What can you splurge on for yourself? And then, and pretty much every supermarket in the world does this already. What I'm talking about here is not rocket science. When you go to the checkout of a supermarket, there are dozens of sub $4 or $5 items lining the checkout line. Why are they there? They're not there because they didn't have any space to put them in the store. They're literally there for this exact thing of that upsell impulse buy.
Yeah.
It's the only reason they're there. Oh, yeah, I really feel like that little chocolate bar. I'll just grab that chocolate bar and go from there. But other companies, what I'm saying is that as an e-commerce brand, if you have the right technology underneath you, you can do and play with this sort of thing and just experiment. And the person's during a checkout, and over on the right-hand side, you just show some impulse buy items that other people that have bought those cart items have bought that are under whatever some threshold is. And maybe you set the threshold based on the cart value. So you do something like, okay, the cart value is $100. We will show items at 10% of that. So the threshold value is going to be $10. Do a query on my database live as the person's checking out of everyone that's bought the items that are in the cart, cross-reference with every product that's under $10 that is in carts of other people that have bought those items, and show them during the quick checkout for quick add to cart. Like that would be cool. If you don't know how to do that, contact us. We'll help you. But this sort of thing is very, very, very powerful. And really, the other aspect of that is it's showing that you're doing it for money, obviously. You're doing it for the financial success and income of your e-commerce brand. But that doesn't have to be mutually exclusive to the success of your customer, right? If you're doing a cart checkout, and people really need to understand this, if you're doing a cart checkout and you've got 4 items in that cart, and 80% of the shoppers that bought those 4 items also bought this other item, maybe that's something that's really needed. Like maybe it's the spare batteries, because people get this item and then tend to use it so much initially that they run out of the batteries straight away. So good, let's get them an extra set of batteries. So this is, use those learnings from your own clients and customers to expand and grow and help your existing ones. It's very important.
And one of my favorite things, I'm always fascinated, because I do a considerable amount of online shopping, just because of the convenience of it and the time savings, etc. I love when I happen to see, order's over, and I always do a quick calculation. Order's over $150, I get free shipping. So I'll look and I'll go, okay, so that was $70 and $70. Oh, that's only that's $140. All right, I'll buy a third. I'm like, okay, because I'm getting it for free. I always find that such a trip. It's always like, oh, you little sneaky guys. All right, I see what's going on, but I'll go for it immediately.
Or when they have it at the top of the page and they're like, you're only $5.50 away from free shipping, or $20
free shipping. Absolutely. I love that.
Up for me then.
I love that. Now all of a sudden there's a little game. They've gamified it just a little bit. Ooh, what can I get?
We had a B2B customer that's on StoreConnect that does something really clever, which is every month they have pricing tiers. So the more you buy, the more the discounts you get as a client, an ongoing client. This is very common in the B2B world, where you buy more than X volume per month, you then go from the 5% off price book to the 6% or the 7% off price book. So you're rewarding loyalty, right? So they've set up a little tool inside of the Salesforce platform, which obviously powers StoreConnect, and they just have a little script, a bit of code that runs in there, or a flow it's called, and they just calculate how many dollars each client needs to spend 5 days out before the end of the month, or 4 days out before the end of the month, how far away in dollar value they are from hitting the next tier. And then they send a targeted email out to every client that says, hey, Jess, you spent $3,221 with us. You only have another $178 to spend to hit $3,500, which gets you into the 6% tier. Here are some things that you bought last month that you didn't buy this month. Do you need them? Right?
Perfect.
And that's a win-win. Jess goes, oh yeah, I totally actually forgot to buy that. Great, I'll go and buy it, and that means I graduate to the next club up. That's awesome, So yeah. This is one of those things where if you listen to what your customers want, you can generate a lot more revenue.
Boom! Just my clicks.
And I have
From
my
Michael's spoken word. I love that. Well, I know because, again, like I always predict, we talk because there's so much to say and we've run out of time. So I'm going to leave this cliffhanger. We're actually going to open the next episode with our real customer and kick off the episode with that. So if you want to be part of this, go to www.realcustomers. I'm not going to spell that out. You can look at the subtitles. .com, and you can record your experience, and if we share it, you get a little Steve and you get a voucher if we actually use it in our podcast.
Nice.
So head over to the next episode when that will be published, and we'll share it then. But thank you so much, guys, for another week of the Customer Commerce Podcast. See you next week.
Thanks, Jess.
And keep
Thanks,
remembering, more cowbell.
More cowbell. Ding, 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 ding.
Thanks for joining us today. We hope you had an awesome time leaving you with ideas on how to improve your business and wow customers. If you'd like to leave a Real CUSStomers story, head to the link in our show notes and cuss away. Love the show? Please subscribe and leave a review because that enables us to help more businesses in building real relationships with customers and grow more rapidly. See you next time.